Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Over the past week, a lot of details for Interstellar have come out, both about the film and the business of making the movie. Interstellar, of course, is Christopher Nolan's next big movie as follow-up to The Dark Knight Rises that he's making with his brother Jonathan. Jonathan Nolan wrote the script, and originally Steven Spielberg was going to direct, but he dropped out, and of course Christopher Nolan came to his brother's rescue, and some would argue is perhaps even a better choice for the material, because there's a huge contingent of people who want to just see anything that Christopher Nolan does. So first, let's talk about the details about the film itself. This is going to be another brain twister from the Nolans, of course. That's their favorite thing to do. This one is going to be apparently about space travel through a wormhole. Apparently, a group of humans in the future find a wormhole that they can travel through. But the trick here, where they kind of go meta, is that it doesn't just travel through space, but it can apparently travel through time and also alternate dimensions. Which is very, very genre, very smart. I think you can get a lot of good comic book elements in there. You might wonder, is it too similar to Inception, perhaps? The words even are similar. Inception, Interstellar. Perhaps this is the beginning of a trilogy for the Nolans. But I think you had the dream universe. Now you're going to have the actual universe going through that. So I think it'll be interesting. I'm always actually a fan of alternate timeline stories, so I think that's very interesting to see. Now he's bringing in back Michael Caine, his regular, but what I think is most exciting is that a large part of the cast, almost all of it, is new to the Nolanverse. And I don't like it when directors have set up kind of like a theater company, like Nolan has been doing, and also Steven Soderbergh. I think it makes all their films have kind of a sameness about them. And so I'm excited to see him team up with these new people. As I've reported before, Matthew McConaughey is going to be the lead. I think that's incredibly exciting. The film will also star, Anne Hathaway's coming back from The Dark Knight Rises. I think she worked very well with Nolan. She was actually one of my favorite parts of that movie, so I'm very excited about that. Jessica Chastain will join her. Also, I have them written down here because it's such a large list. Wes Bentley, back from his American Beauty days. Topher Grace, I think that's very exciting. Casey Affleck, I'm very happy about that. I've been a big Casey Affleck fan ever since the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. If you haven't seen that film, you should definitely check it out. It's a slow burn, go in with low expectations, you'll be greatly rewarded, and you'll become a Casey Affleck fan. Also, we've got John Lithgow, Ellen Burstyn. John Lithgow and Ellen Burstyn are so Nolan-y. I can't believe it's taken them this long to team up with them. And also David Oyelowo, who you might see coming into a lot more projects, especially after The Butler, which opens tomorrow here in the United States, and that's going to be a big Oscar contender. So I think you're going to be seeing a lot more from everybody in the cast. But it's great to see David Oyelowo kind of maybe moving up to the big leagues finally after doing a lot of independent work. And so I think that sounds like an interesting movie. That's our first little bit of details. The film has started shooting for a 2014 release date. Now, behind the scenes, as you know, this is one of the Legendary pictures. Legendary is very tight with Nolan, and they, as I reported a lot, right after Man of Steel came out, they have broken with Warner Brothers. The production company no longer is going to be a shingle there, hang their hat at Warner Brothers. So kind of they had the divorce proceedings have begun recently. And the big headline was that Warner Brothers said, hey, we want to keep the DC movies entirely to ourselves. We want you Legendary, we know you helped produce them, we know you helped make them great, but Kevin Tsujihara wants them to be entirely the property of Warner Brothers. So they said, hey, you give us back your stake in the DC universe, Legendary, and we will give you Interstellar. You can have a 25% cut, but this isn't a gift. Legendary will have to finance 25% of Interstellar, but Legendary has incredibly deep pockets. That's another way that movie financing is happening these days. The studios are dependent on production shingles to raise their own money. And Thomas Tull, who I interviewed on the red carpet for Man of Steel, has really great ties in the finance world and just has a tremendous amount of money to pour into a tremendous amount of films. For instance, he's taking a huge loss on Pacific Rim financially, and he can take it. So they're going to pay for 25% of Interstellar and have rights on that. And I think it's interesting that Legendary was cool with that. They were cool giving up their DC movies, jumping ship from that franchise to invest more heavily in Christopher Nolan. So it really makes you wonder, what is the most valuable part of the DC franchise? Is when they extract Nolan from that recipe, what effect will it have down the line? Because it seems for all extensive purposes it's been left to Snyder and Goyer, which as you all know, I have a big problem with. I would much rather see them bring in someone like Vince Gilligan to take over. Maybe you don't have to get rid of Snyder, but I would, maybe just make Goyer an idea person. But I feel that Snyder and Goyer are not capable hands to control the DC Cinematic Universe. But anyway, as far as the rest, so Legendary, Legendary, by the way, has gone to Universal. So the films that will stay with Warner Brothers are the ones they've already been heavily promoting. That's 300 Rise of an Empire, the 300 sequel. That will stay with Warner Brothers. And also Godzilla will continue to be a Warner Brothers movie. Might as well, after all the money that they and Legendary poured into advertising, and I think quite successfully at Comic-Con this year. But the films that that Legendary is basically a free agent with, and Universal gets first right of refusal. They're going to pitch to Universal. They're going to pitch Warcraft. So the World of Warcraft movie could go to Universal. I'd be shocked if they turned that down. So there's that. There's also the Hot Wheels film is going to be pitched to Universal. We also have, Mass Effect. That also could go to Universal. And then Michael Mann's upcoming Cyber, which is going to star Chris Hemsworth. That sounds like a somewhat inexpensive film, so of course, who's not going to pick up that duo? So we could be looking for some nice stuff for Universal down the line. But of course, Universal has the Fast and Furious franchise, so they're in a pretty good position as well. Sony should have bid a little more heavily for Legendary. They really need the money. So that's the first story of the day. Interstellar, just a flood of information, really fascinating. The second story is that apparently Jurassic Park 4 not dead. The director Colin Trevorrow, who did Safety Not Guaranteed, that very small independent film with I think Mark Duplass and Aubrey Plaza and Jake Johnson. He is doing the next Jurassic Park. Steven Spielberg brought him on board, and he recently did a podcast where he said, "Yeah, we're on track for 2015. None of the rumors you're hearing are true." But he went on to assure viewers that he's not just making this for a paycheck, that it's not making Jurassic Park 4 so he can get some serious credibility in Hollywood and then go and make the movies that he really wants to make. He said he really wants to make Jurassic Park 4. He's a big fan, and it's going to be awesome, and it's going to have like a new dinosaur in it, and of course the T-Rex, everybody's favorite dinosaur. I want to talk about a little bit later about the good dinosaur. You'll see some more coverage. I'm sick, and we had a special BTT shoot on Tuesday, so some of the D23 coverage has been moved to next week. But I do have to say, I find it fascinating the Good Dinosaur, the Pixar film, is focusing on vegetarian dinosaurs, such as like a Brontosaurus, which are never the big sellers. I think that's really a risky move. I know they don't want their cute little characters to eat anybody, but maybe they evolved that they could eat, steak and stuff. I don't know. I just feel that we're carnivores. Everybody loves each other. And I just feel that kids have never really gotten behind the veggie eaters when it comes to dinosaurs. Just look at Jurassic Park. And a whole other discussion, of course, is just how ridiculously crowded 2015 is getting. But I think Jurassic Park is a great franchise. I actually liked Jurassic Park 3. That 2 was obviously horrible, but I really liked parts of 3 a lot, and I'm excited for 4, and I think it would be a mistake not to bring back Sam Neill in some capacity. I think you need to have that through line. People like seeing the same faces, but I'm excited about it. All right, so the third story I wanted to cover, another thing that's, these movies, when they start getting these stories out and their producers are trying to hype their movies, they release stories a little bit too soon, because apparently Milla Jovovich is not going to be in the Expendables 3. Maybe she's holding out, maybe there's contract negotiations, but the producer for the Expendables 3 tweeted out like some huge list of actors that are going to be in the film, and Jovovich was not on there. In fact, the only one was the only female person in the fighter in the film is going to be another, I think, UFC fighter or mixed martial arts fighter. And so I think that it's unfortunate. I was really excited for Milla Jovovich to join this cast, and she even tweeted about reading the script. So I'd be very curious to know what went wrong. I hope that this is just maybe something they're still working on. I think she would be a big get, and I think that with the way the cast is developing, I'm glad Harrison Ford is in it, but Nicolas Cage wasn't on this list either, and I feel like they're creating another film where it's just like, hey, these people all aren't doing something else. And so I think it's crucial for the Expendables 3 to get cast members who are still working in Hollywood today. A lot. And Milla Jovovich is one of those people. She's making a ton of Resident Evil films. So maybe it was a paycheck thing as well. But I guess Stallone felt a little better about it because he didn't tweet about that, even though he totally outed Bruce Willis. So the question that I want to answer today is, yesterday I was all about the rumor mill in Hollywood and what rumors were true and what rumors were likely not true, and etc. And a number of you said, well, why is everyone running rumors? What's with that? And the point is that it's for hits. It's kind of, it's sad to see this happening in the genre area of entertainment news as well, or entertainment news in general, because I feel this is a problem in news across the board. It's a problem in, legitimate, actual political news and stuff like that. It's a ratings race. It's, you need the hits. So when a story breaks, you have to cover it. So even if it's a rumor, everyone just jumps on it. And unfortunately, a lot of times, that's why I covered, a lot of you were like, well, why are you covering this Wolverine rumor when it's false? And because so many people were asking my thoughts on it, I thought I had a responsibility to come out and say, you know what, I'm glad you're excited about this, but I'm sorry to say I don't think it's true. And I think that, there's no problem in talking about what's the topic of the topic du jour, I guess. But I think at the same time, it's not. I think that these sites are being irresponsible and not, talking about how what's probably being talked about isn't true. But I guess when the rumor first initially breaks, nobody knows. Unfortunately, I'm sad to say, a lot of journalists on the internet just cut and paste articles, or they just regurgitate them. They don't even add their own aspects to it. It's a really touchy subject, but just remember, find your trusted sites. I hope Beyond the Trailer is one of them. And hope that they'll trust that they'll tell you how it is and they'll be straight with you. And then identify the sites that are just trying to get up on that Google search, because that's really a big part of the game. Because people find their stuff through search, and that's a speed game. And when you're trying to get things up quickly, there's no time for fact checking and musing and wondering. That's why sometimes my stories don't go up right away. I created Morning Movie News to get things up faster, but still, sometimes I'd like to think about it a little bit. Like, why would I report this? What do I have to add to the story? So that's my thoughts today. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Morning Movie News. Write down below what you'd like to see covered tomorrow and any questions you might have. Bye.